Bright Cutie. Every student matters.
Welcome back, students. Today we will start the chapter The Revolt of 1857, and this is a history chapter for class 8. You all must have heard that this great revolt of 1857 is known as the First World War of Independence. Here you could see the pictures of the heroic personalities, those who fought and sacrificed their lives for us to start this revolt of independence. Here we could see Rani Lakshmi Bai, Tantia Tope, Mangal Pandey, and the troops and the people, those who sacrificed their lives. They all were into the struggle for the freedom, and they just started the spark so that we can also feel what is the importance of independence. And we were colonized under British rule, and they made us realize that how miserable conditions we were in at that time. The revolt which broke out in northern and central India in 1857 is now popularly known as the Revolt of 1857. Scholars till date are divided in their opinion as to whether it was just a mutiny of sepoys, a mere product of their discontent, or the first Indian War of Independence. He is the great hero Mangal Pandey who started this, and British historians are of the view that it was just a mutiny of the sepoys, the Indian soldiers of lower ranks in English army. They asserted were a mutiny as the whole of India did not participate in it. South India, Punjab, and Bengal were only marginal affected. The early Indian, if I say opine, it was indeed the first war of independence as it had a widespread effect, the coming together of soldiers of different regions, rulers, and chiefs of different states and principalities to fight for the common aim. And the common aim was Indian independence. Many sections of Indian society, landlords, peasants, and then artisans, scholars, they all joined together the revolt. And modern Indian historians maintain that the uprising of 1857 was just a revolt of certain discontented groups against colonial policies. Now the outburst. On 9th May 1857, it was 9th May 1857, on the parade ground of Meerut. The place was Meerut, and 85 Indian troopers were court-martialed. 85. So number of Indian soldiers were 85. What was their crime? Why exactly they were court-martialed? These troopers, they had refused to load their rifle with the new cartridges, the bullets. About the new cartridges, a rumor had spread that the new cartridge contained the fat of cow and pig. What was the religious belief? For Hindus, cow was sacred, and for Muslims, pig meat was forbidden by Quran. On 10 May 1857, men of 3rd Light Cavalry stormed with barracks jail and released their comrades. Soon the Indian civilians joined the mutineers and killed about 50 Europeans. The news spread like wildfire. The already simmering anger against British burst into a violent storm. Now, what were the causes of revolt of 1857? Political causes, that means related to politics. Social causes, related to communities. Because in India, it's a big problem. Communities. Religious, that means religion based. Economic means money based. Administrative means the management, how the government was working, how they were managing the things. Military, of course, the security purposes. Now, what was the spread of the revolt through which we got these uh, Causes like military causes were the security causes. Like military is normally for security. So what was the reason? What were the causes? Let's start with the political causes. Now, the political reasons overweight to the others in the spread of unrest among the people of India. The policy of annexation by the British light the flame. Lord Dalhousie's policy of annexation and the doctrine of lapse had made the Indian rulers angry and insecure. Lord Dalhousie came to India in 1848. In 1848, Lord Dalhousie came, and the doctrine which he made was like he wanted to annex as many native states as possible through the implementation of doctrine of lapse. And under this doctrine, when the ruler of an Indian state which had been enjoying English protection dies without a natural successor, the state was to become a part of British dominion. So that means people were not realizing that what was happening. The British rule was somehow uh, was weakening the roots of the states. Now, according to age old tradition, the ruler had a right to adopt an heir to his throne who succeeded him after his death. But after the introduction of this doctrine, the states had to take prior assent from the British authorities. Before adopting an heir apparent, Satara, Jhansi, and Nagpur, three of the main Maratha states were annexed by doctrine of lapse. Now, the Rani of Jhansi, Lakshmi Bai, was not allowed to adopt a son. In case of disputed interpretation, the decision of the East India Company was binding and that of the Court of the Directors was final. Regal titles of the Nawab of Carnatic and Tanjore were abolished. The imperial title of the Mughal emperor was discontinued. After Bahadur Shah II, the pension of Nana Sahib Peshwa Bajirao's second's adopted son was stopped because they all were adopted children, and according to that doctrine, it was not allowed by the British government now. Now, in case of dispute, the decision of East India Company was binding and that of the Court of the Directors was finalized. Now, Muslims were also, feeling hurt. Why? Because after the death of Bahadur Shah II, Lord Canning took away regal titles and Mughal palaces. And the British thought themselves superior to the Indians and treated latter with a contempt and arrogance, and they followed a policy of racial discrimination. That is why those uh, which we could say titles were taken back. And British authority were afraid of even speaking to their superiors. And all over India, peasants and zamindars began to lose their lands to new zamindars and moneylenders who have been approved by the British. And thousands became unemployed when the English under Lord Dalhousie annexed Oudh. And there were social and religious causes also. What were the social causes? I told you social causes are like, it was related to the communities. The British were rude and used abusive, insultive language, and they never ever thought of Indian people about their sufferings and what exactly they felt. So what they did, the interference of British in the age-old customs of sati and child marriage, polygamy, etc., antagonized the orthodox sections of the society who thought they were trying to change the social order. And the anti-Indian activities, the zeal of the Christian missionaries, what they started, they just converting many Hindus to Christianity, and it was not looked at favorably and added to the discontent of the people. And the European juries allowed European criminals with little or no punishment. Hindus and Muslims were forced to Christianity, and British officers abused the name of Ram and Muhammad. They were totally hurt because, in when you are religiously hurt, so that means you are not able to, like, you become a very miserable person at that time, because the introduction of English education, encouraging women's education, railways and telegraphs were also viewed with the suspicion that the British wanted to use these to spread Christianity. The sentiments of the people were hurt, and obviously, when the government started to tax even the land which belonged to the temples and mosques, idolatry was denounced, Hindu deities were ridiculed, and then comes the economic reasons, the administrative causes, and the military causes as well. Now, if we talk about economic causes, the British had drained India of all her wealth and natural resources by selfish economic policies. And they were like doing everything here very forcefully. People were not interested to do according to their policies even then. The unrest spread among the landlords of Bengal when William Bentinck took away rent free estates from them. Lord Dalhousie confiscated thousands of jagirs in the Deccan. And the East India Company grew at the expense of the people of India. The British employees drew huge salaries besides filling their confines, and through many corrupt practices. After Oudh was annexed, the estates of Zamindars and Talukdar was confiscated. High post and handsome salaries were given to the British. This caused frustration among Indians. The Indian peasants and landowners suffered as the land revenues increased, failing the payment of which they were dispossessed of their lands due to the high duties imposed on the production of cotton and silk goods. The producers stopped the manufacturing of these goods. An Indian economic interest was subordinated to that, the British, and this led to India's ruin. And after the various states were annexed, many of the craftsmen and the artisans lost the royal patronage and became impoverished, and these indigenous crafts suffered tremendously. Then the high posts to the civil services, army, and the judiciary were reserved for the British, and even the educated Indians were not given these posts, nor handsome salaries. There was a discrimination between the foreign and the native officers. Now, the Indians are the native officers, and British are the foreigners. The Indian sepoys were deprived of high salaries and promotions. That means they were not given the ranks. Ranks were not given. High ranks were not given to the Indian sepoys. The highest post of an Indian was that of Subedar. That means they were limited at one post. That was the highest rank was Subedar. New recruits had to travel across the sea. It was forbidden as per Hindu belief. Now, the British Army exposed its vulnerability in the First Afghan War, the Sikh War, and the Crimean War. The Indian sepoys were required to work far off without extra bhatta or payment. That means they were not given any extra amount for their extra work. The privilege of free postage enjoyed by the sepoys was withdrawn with the passing of the Post Office Act 1854. Important centers of revolt: Meerut, Delhi, Awadh, Kanpur, Jhansi, and Gwalior. Now, this was due to immediate reason. The rumor that the Lee Enfield rifle cartridge were greased with the fats of cows and pigs, as we did in introduction as well. So, the Hindus worship cows and Muslims detest pigs, and just because of this problem, this all was happening. Now, the new centers of revolt were made, and these are Meerut, Delhi, Awadh, Kanpur, Jhansi, and Gwalior. Now, Meerut. 9th May 1857, 85 sepoys were court-martialed. They had refused to use new cartridge. Next day, their companions attacked the jail. Sepoys were freed. New cartridge, why? Because Hindus, they did not want to use fats of cows. This we have done. And Muslims, the fat of pigs according to their Quran. And cows were sacred for Hindus. Next day, their companion attacked the jail and sepoys were freed. Officers and Europeans were killed. Revolters headed towards Delhi. Now, Delhi. On 12th May 1857, Delhi was seized, that means captured by rebels. Some Europeans were shot dead. Bahadur Shah too was persuaded to support. Loss of Delhi was a prestige loss for British. On 14 September 1857, British attacked, and on 20th September, British regained Delhi. Bahadur Shah and Zeenat Mahal fled to Humayun's tomb but were followed and captured by General Hudson. Three sons were killed, the king and queen exiled to Rangoon, and the king died in 1862. This is our Red Fort, Zeenat Mahal and Bahadur Shah too. This was General Hudson. Now, Lucknow. Out. The revolt here was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal of Awadh, who was the regent of her minor son Bakht Khan. Having come over from Delhi, joined the forces. Fierce fighting took place here, and the British under Sir Henry Lawrence were defeated. The regency was BCIs, and the CIs lasted for 5 months. Sir Henry Lawrence, he died during the CIs. Though the Indian troops fought with great courage and determination, but with fresh troops, the British were able to win. Now it was annexed by Lord Dalhousie, the Nawab of Oudh, exiled to Calcutta, and his wife Hazrat Mahal, an 11-year-old son, that was his minor son, continued to live in Oudh but in very poor condition. Their condition was very miserable. So people of Oudh were angry and the revolt broke out on 4 June 1857. Henry Lawrence, the British resident with some Europeans, with some hundred sepoys, took refuge in a residency, Begum Siai's residency, and killed Henry and some others in November. Sir Colin Campbell, who was commander-in-chief, attacked with Gorkha regiment, and the regiment was Gorkha. In March 1858, the city was finally recaptured. The rebels driven to Nepal border to die in bad climate or captured by Gurkhas. She was Begum Hazrat Mahal and Colin Campbell. Now the Kanpur. What was happening in Kanpur? Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao, was proclaimed the Peshwa. He led the revolt in Kanpur with Tantia Tope, his assistant. After a furious battle, General Sir Hugh Wheeler surrendered on 27 June 1857. Nana Sahib assured safe passage of British to Allahabad. General James O'Neill inhumanly ill-treated Indians. And this is true. All British people, they ill-treated Indians. Angry Indians killed the passing British citizens. And in June 1857, the general defeated Nana Sahib. In November 1857, Nana Sahib and Tantia Tope recaptured Kanpur back. On 6 December 1857, General Campbell reoccupied Kanpur and Nana fled to Nepal and he died there, and Tantia joined Rani Lakshmi Bai. He was Nana Sahib, Tantia Tope. Now, very important, Jhansi and Gwalior. In June 1857, the troops at Jhansi revolted. Rani Lakshmi Bai, she was widow of Raja Gangadhar Rao, declared ruler. Tantia Tope joined her after Kanpur was lost. On 3rd April 1858, Sir Herb Rose recaptured Jhansi and Lakshmi Bai escaped to Kalpi near Gwalior, where Tantia joined her. Both marched to Gwalior. Sir Herb Rose also marched to Gwalior and captured in June 1858. Rani died fighting bravely. Tantia escaped southward but was betrayed by his friend Man Singh. Tantia was finally hanged. Rani Lakshmi Bai, who fought very bravely, and this is Tantia Tope, hanged ruthlessly. Now the other centers of revolt: Bareilly. Khan Bahadur proclaimed himself the ruler. Bihar, Zamindar Kumar Singh raised the revolt. Banaras, Banarsis organized a rebellion. All were subsequently suppressed by British people. Now, what were the outcomes? The revolt was completely suppressed and crushed by July 1858. There were causes of failure of the revolt also, because this revolt was not successful, and so there were many reasons for the failure of the revolt. The revolt was localized and was poorly organized. The British had better resources than the rebels.